So this is actually a really cool topic. I started studying this so I could have a better understanding of what the scriptures call signs in the heavens. But I ended up discovering a pattern in the scriptures with these signs that is really exciting that I'm going to share with you guys in this video. If you are like me, it's going to give you chills when you see it. Signs in the heavens are those signs that God gives us that manifest themselves outside of the control of man, so they cannot be refuted, such as constellation alignment or a new star, a comet, or an asteroid. It includes manifestations from volcanoes or other events that blot out the sun or turn the moon to blood. There are actually a finite number of them, so we can actually make a good study of them. Probably the sign in the heavens that is most well known is the Star of Bethlehem, a star that would signify the birth of the Savior and be a guide to the wise men to behold the Christ child. The Nephites were told that a new star would arise, such as one as ye never have beheld, and this also shall be a sign unto you. And the star did appear at Christ's birth. This same event corresponded to a day and a night and a day without darkness, a sign in the heavens. Another well-known sign in the heavens was when Noah received the promise that the Lord would not flood the earth again. Genesis 9:11-13 says, "And I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of the flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you. For perpetual generations, I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a token of a covenant between me and the earth." Then many Latter-day Saints would be able to cite other signs in the heavens that we expect to happen in the last days. These may include things like the sun covered in sackcloth and the moon turning to blood, and the stars falling from the sky, and the heavens departing as a scroll when it is rolled together, or the great star that falls from heaven burning like a lamp called Wormwood. These are different than other signs of the time, such as wars, famine, fire, earthquakes, plagues, and the like. Signs in the heavens are much more rare and usually signify special events. They seem to always be associated with the sky or heaven or the clouds, hence why they are called signs in the heavens. Another less well-known sign in the heavens was when Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by brimstone and fire, and notice the key here where it says, quote, "from the Lord out of heaven." What if we were to list these signs in the heavens? Let's make a list of those that have happened in the past and those that will happen in the future. What other signs could we add to this list that are perhaps less well known? One that we don't talk about enough is listed in the Doctrine and Covenants 88 verse 93, which says, "And immediately there shall appear a great sign in heaven, and all people shall see it together." This is referring to a special great sign in heaven just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ. There aren't a lot of details about what this sign even is, so I've taken some creative liberties on what my guess will be. One of the few clues that we have is that Wilford Woodruff had a dream where he saw, quote, "I saw 7 golden lamps set in the heavens, representing the various dispensations of God to man, a sign that would appear before the coming of Christ." So we may not know much about this future sign, but this sign is definitely something we should add to our list. Another sign in the heavens is the return of the city of Enoch during the millennium. Moses 7:62 and 63 says, quote, "I shall prepare an holy city, that my people may gird up their loins, and be looking forth for the time of my coming. For there shall be my tabernacle, and it shall be called Zion, a new Jerusalem. And the Lord said unto Enoch, Then shalt thou and all thy city meet them there, and we will receive them into our bosom, and they shall see us, and we will fall upon their necks, and they shall fall upon our necks, and we will kiss each other." So let's add the future events of a great sign in heaven just before the second coming, and the return of the city of Enoch to our list of signs in the heavens. For those of you who are true believers and have watched my very first video, it was about another sign in the heavens. This is called the Revelation 12 sign because Revelation 12 describes a specific configuration of the sun, moon, and planets. Let me be clear, I did not discover this interpretation. For the entire story, watch my first video. I'll post the link here. It was discovered that there is a very rare configuration of the planets and the moon and the sun that happen in conjunction with the constellation Virgo that perfectly describes what is listed by John in Revelation 12. Everyone was in high anticipation of the date September 23rd, 2017, because this was one of the very few dates in history that this special configuration occurs. As I was researching this last year, I discovered it wasn't 2017 that was the interesting manifestation of this sign, but rather the previous occurrence, which happened on September 27th, 1827. Any of you church history buffs remember probably what happened on September 22nd, 1827. That is the day, after 4 years of waiting, the angel Moroni allowed Joseph to get the gold plates from the hill Cumorah. The very next day, the sign is manifest in the heavens. I believe this sign in the heavens that John spoke of in Revelation 12 represents the beginning of the gathering of Israel, which is one main purpose of the Book of Mormon. Now, if you haven't watched that video, you really need to. There is so much more to this sign in the heavens than what I've just explained here. You won't believe how unique and special this is. That discovery to me was so profound that I wanted to share it with everybody, and the reason I started this Gospel Lessons channel in the first place. So let's add Revelation 12 sign to our list. It was at this point in my study of the signs in the heavens that something occurred to me about these signs in the heavens, and I knew I needed to arrange and organize these in a different way. I began to notice that each of these signs in the heavens had a mirrored or corresponding sign in the past and in the future. For example, fire and brimstone from heaven destroying the wicked cities of Sodom and Gomorrah in the past mirrors a future sign in the heavens where the sun shall be darkened and the moon shall be turned to blood and the stars fall from heaven. Another one I saw was the Star of Bethlehem, a new star with the birth of the Savior, matched with an end of days great star from heaven that falls or comes down at his second coming. I began to wonder if each of these signs in the heavens had a corresponding last day sign in the heavens. Remember that great sign in heaven just before the second coming? Could that be paired with the Revelation 12 sign marking the coming forth of the Book of Mormon and the beginning of the gathering of Israel? So for something like this to work, it has to work perfectly. So I looked at Noah's flood and the rainbow, which we know to be a sign in the heavens, as well as the return of the city of Enoch. Now, I'm already giving you a peek behind the curtain by placing this in a matrix, but I realized that the city of Enoch being translated would be a sign in the heavens. In fact, Moses 7:21 says, "And it came to pass that the Lord showed unto Enoch all the inhabitants of the earth. And he beheld, and lo, Zion in process of time was taken up into heaven. And the Lord said unto Enoch, Behold, mine abode forever." I started realizing that the use of the word heaven in various scriptures was not a coincidence, but ties to a keyword to the signs in the heavens. So I added the city of Enoch being translated as a pairing for the return of the city of Enoch when it joined Zion during the millennium. So my attention turned to Noah and the flood, and the Lord promises Noah that there would never be a flood again, and the rainbow is the token of the covenant between God and mankind. Then I realized I already had the answer, because the corresponding sign in the heavens would need to be near or at the second coming. I realized that the corresponding event to a baptism of water would be a baptism of fire, the fire that consumes the wicked when the Lord returns. While there is no shortage of scriptures talking about how the wicked are destroyed by fire at the Lord's second coming, this pairing between the flood and the last day's destruction of the wicked by fire was made by Peter in 2 Peter 3 verses 6 and 7, which says, "Whereby the world that then was being overflowed with water perished, but the heavens and the earth which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire, against the day of the judgment and perdition of ungodly men." Now, I didn't have the benefit of having the matrix with empty cells prompting me to go on, but when I got to this point, something else occurred to me. I began to realize that each of these past signs in the heavens came from a different dispensation. When I added the dispensations, I realized that there were some gaps, and I wondered if there were some obvious things that could fill those in. A while back, I did a video on the final plagues prior to the second coming. In that video, I described how the plagues in the last days mirror the same plagues that happened when Moses led the children of Israel out of bondage from Egypt. In that video, I described that evidence would suggest that God erupted the Greek isle of Santorini in order to bring about the 10 plagues of Egypt. That would certainly be a sign in the heavens. It should probably be no surprise that the Lord told Moses to, quote, "stretch out thine hand towards heaven," when bringing about the 9th plague, which was the plague of darkness upon the Egyptians. I think that there is a solid argument for including the plagues into our list of signs in the heavens. And as I said, those same plagues will occur just prior to when the Lord returns to save the Jews during Armageddon, just after the 2 witnesses are killed. So I feel they should be added to our list for Moses' dispensation. This left the first dispensation with Adam. You have probably already figured it out, but the fall from a terrestrial paradise to our current telestial world would be hard to argue as not being one of the signs in the heavens, especially when you consider the many verses that describe the earth being transformed back into a paradisiacal glory after the second coming of Christ, including Isaiah 65 verse 17, which says, "Behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come to mind." Notice the words "a new heaven and a new earth." 2 Peter 3 states, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness." So perhaps the signs in the heavens associated with the dispensation of Adam is the terrestrial to telestial fall, and the corresponding event at the second coming is when the earth receives its paradisiacal glory and is renewed as a terrestrial paradise for the millennium. So there it is. Isn't this amazing? There is a single sign in the heavens during each dispensation showing forth God's power, protecting the righteous, destroying the wicked, or announcing the coming of our Savior. Each with a corresponding event in the last days, again showing God's power, destroying the wicked, protecting the righteous, and announcing the coming of the Savior. Now some will say, "Kevin, you're looking beyond the mark again," and hey, that's what I call Thursday. But look, we are told to watch for the signs of his coming so we can be prepared. Look at the beauty in this. Christ's atonement marked the end of animal sacrifice, and that had happened from the foundation of the world until his suffering and death as the Lamb without blemish. All of that animal sacrifice pointing to this moment in time when the great and last sacrifice will be made. After the death and resurrection of the Savior, we are now supposed to place on the proverbial altar a broken heart and a contrite spirit, remembering the suffering and sacrifice our Savior made for us. This is why those 2 short sacrament prayers ask us to remember a total of 4 times. Now regarding the Lord's second coming, these signs in the heavens throughout all of the dispensations of man have been pointing us all along to look forward to the coming of the Son of Man when he comes in glory, destroys the wicked, and we join him in everlasting felicity. I think that that is profound. This is not coincidence. This is like the ultimate Easter egg, pun intended, with Easter being the celebration of Christ. What if President Woodruff was right, and that final sign in the heavens is 7 golden lamps representing the various dispensations of God to man? Perhaps it is the final sign that ties all of this together. I was watching a YouTube channel, the Book of Mormon Central, where they have these Come Follow Me insights, and a few weeks back they did one that included Doctrine and Covenants 77, which had a bunch of the Book of Revelation insights. But at about the 37-minute mark of that video, Tyler talks a bit about numerology in the Bible and the numbers 3 and 4 specifically. The number 3 representing the Godhead and the number 4 representing the earth, and when you combine them, you get the number 7, which is the number that represents perfection. They also talk about how the number 7 is used throughout the book of Revelation to show the completeness and perfection of God's work and plan. If you haven't, you should watch that section in particular, which I think reinforces how epic these signs in the heavens are. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the 7 angels blowing the 7 trumps and all that in the book of Revelation are those 7 dispensational leaders, who I believe are also the 7 archangels. You'll need to watch my other video to learn about that. Doesn't that just feel right, that the Lord has architected this world, and as you see these signs in the heavens, is there any doubt who is in charge? It has been his plan all along, and this shows his forethought into every aspect of this world. Nothing has been overlooked. It is complete and it is perfect. And that is why I got excited about learning about these signs in the heavens. I hope you learned something as well as enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.